Good. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Record of attendance, Linda. Any declarations of conflict of interest? And approval of agenda additions or deletions. 9A, we have Municipal Awareness Week. 9B, Keswick Métis Council support request. Is there anything else to add to the agenda? I'm looking for a motion to approve it with the additions.
I'll make that motion, Your Worship.
Councillor Dawes. Seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Presentation. Welcome, Neil. Yeah, as much as you can, only because we're recorded. Thank you.
Okay. So, thank you for inviting me to come and give you an update on the current status of the Compost project that you all are probably aware of in terms of different levels of understanding. Just to reiterate, the municipality of Advan has received back in February of 2015 this year, which we finally received our approval for 2 Compost certificates from the Department of Energy. So what the Compost certificate allows you to do is basically the Department of Energy is saying on behalf of the minister that you have the right to put up 2 50-kilowatt turbines pending all the other components of the Compost application. Some of those components are determining setback requirements, other issues with the land, environmental assessments, and community consultations. The phase that we're at right now is community consultation. So community consultation is one of the steps in the application process that requires us to
Just hang on 1 second. We'll just wait till the conversations are done and we'll carry on. Yeah, go ahead.
community consultations is the phase in the application process where we have to provide all the information we can to the public to let them know what our plans are and what we'd like to do at this proposed location, which is in Wellington. We put out a notice in the Vanguard, and that's what you see on the paper there. I'll just kind of quickly go through that to take a quick synopsis of what we've done and where
They just can't hear you online.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So where we're at now is basically we're at the community consultation phase, and at that phase, what we want to do is advise the public what we hope to do at this location, give them all the answers we can possibly give regarding the project, and also make sure that you guys are on board and prepared to support the project as much as possible as well. Because again, this is a joint project of 3 municipalities: the town of Yarmouth, the municipality of Argyle, and the municipality of Yarmouth. The intent of this project is that each municipal unit would share in the costs, and each municipal unit would share in the net revenue. So what we're looking at, I guess, is truly a regional joint project. So with that being said, I'll proceed to give you a few more kind of looks of what the project's looking like, and then we'll take some questions and go from there. Is there any questions so far?
Thank you, Your Worship. Neil, this COMFIT, doing a little digging, a couple of things here from the proposal. Maybe the CAO can answer. When we first bought into this, the rules were a little different. Am I right on that, CAO? And is the contribution from each municipal unit exactly the same as it was when we started this process? My first question.
Go ahead.
It hasn't varied a whole lot, I don't believe. Just looking at Neil as far as what would have changed, the only thing that has significantly changed is that when around the time, I guess, that we bought into this, we were hopeful and optimistic that the Build Canada Fund would come into play. The Build Canada Fund is the federal provincial infrastructure program, where this is a green project and where it is a intermunicipal project, and relatively inexpensive. We thought that there was a fairly good chance that we would receive an approval through Build Canada, which would have reduced our contribution to a third of a third, or 1/9 of the project.
Now, my second question could be the CAO to Neil. I as a residential customer, buy my power at X amount, whatever it is, like you said, 12 cents, something like that. And then we're selling power to NSP for 49 cents. So the differential of the 37 cents, that really is coming from me.
The COMFIT program is sponsored by the province, and it's...
But did not the government withdraw from that program?
They did, but prior to that withdrawal, we were able to secure our certificates.
So that means that they will continue to give their contribution to the program financially?
Yes. Yeah.
So
for those that have approved certificates now, when the program ended in January, there were a large amount of applications that were pending, and they were basically purged from the application process and said, "You're too late, no more." We were one of the very few that were actually able to get in with a lot of work actually under the wire, and were able to get that certificate, the two certificates.
What is the percentage of provincial? What percentage of provincial of that 37 cent variance? What do they pick up?
I'm not sure how to answer that. I can say that the province pays us, or the joint committee, the organization that's going to be manning this project. We would get 49 cents for every kilowatt hour that we generated and that was put onto the grid.
Okay, but I'm just wondering, the ratepayer with NSPC, to me, the way it was sounding, at least reading the media reports, is like almost like an indirect tax. You know, it's another way of taxation in some cases, because the customer pays the rate. NSPC has gone on record now saying that, hey, you know, if you're going to do this program, you guys, somebody's going to have to pay the bill. Mm-hmm. And NSP did not seem too excited about paying the bill out of their revenues. So am I reading it right that they're expecting the ratepayers within NSP to pick up that 37 cent minus provincial differential?
I can't say what the province is going to do in the future, and I can't even really say what who ultimately is paying for the 49 cent rate that municipalities are getting. But there's definitely, because the province is involved and guaranteeing the rate. For example, Nova Scotia Power would never offer that rate to anybody if they didn't have to, right?
Exactly.
And then Nova Scotia Power would be perfectly happy to burn coal, because their infrastructure and their systems are in place that allows them to do that now, right? They put a huge investment in burning coal, and to change is costly. So they would rather not have to move to renewable energy. They'd rather not have to be forced to purchase renewable energy from distributed wind energy projects like we're talking about now. So I can't speak really to what the ratepayer's paying. What I can tell you is that your tax rates aren't going to go up because of this project.
No.
And your power rates aren't going to go up because of this project either.
Okay.
The rates for COMFIT were already established, and again, what I'm hearing is that COMFIT may change in the future if it comes back. We're looking actually in the fall to hear some new things, but as it stands right now, there is no more COMFIT program other than the COMFIT projects that existed prior to the applications being purged from the system.
So on this one-page document I'm looking at, which just gives all the revenues and all the smiles and goodies, what are we factoring in for damage? We have a sudden hurricane and the rotors start spinning and spinning and spinning. Do we have a contingency in place within the budget for that? Or because although our profit margin looks around, well, according to this, you're looking at about $100,000 a year, and that's on a $1 million investment. So you're getting approximately 7 or 8% return, which is a very good return. I wish I can get 7-8%. But the question is, one big storm could cause some damage. Is there a risk of that? Like,
There's always, great question. There's always a risk of storms and always a risk of damage to any infrastructure, any municipal infrastructure. But there is insurance incorporated into the business plan, into these costs. These turbines also don't just spin and generate power without being controlled. They actually have a system in place where one of the turbines that I'm very familiar with it actually has a system in place where the brake it's up. It has a fail-safe, so if the power goes off, for example, the brake is engaged. The only way that the turbine can actually operate is if there is power. Mm-hmm. As soon as the power were to fail, the brake would engage because the power is what actually holds the brake open and allows the turbine to spin. And also, you'll notice in this diagram here, there is an operational standard here, a cut-in speed and a cut-out speed. Mm-hmm. And that's what, when you look at the cut-in speed is measured in meters per second, and that measurement, basically your average or your annual energy production is what you look at, which is what you build your business plan on. But they also both turbines that we're proposing, that we're going to be looking at, cut out at 25 meters per second, which is a strong wind, but they would not operate in high winds because there'd be too much risk of damage to the property.
thank you very much, Worship.
Good, thank you. Councillor McIsaac?
Thank you, Your Worship. This first site over in Chabot and the site that we're being
Overton.
showed here, what's the difference in wind? It must be comparable, or is it comparable to the new site?
The difference in wind at the Overton site was approximately 6.8 to 7 meters per second annual energy production. That Overton site was a very, very, very good location for wind, and it's unfortunate we didn't end up operating there, but that site had fantastic wind production. This site, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying am I misled by the people say that that's the highest point of land in Yarmouth County, where the towers and that are?
Where this tower is here?
Yeah, where those towers are.
I know that it is quite a high area. It's about, I think, from just going
Sea level up, that's what
I
I'm
think it's
talking
about 52 meters above sea level.
Yeah, that's high.
And then, of course, these turbines are about 42 meters above the ground
Okay.
to the hub. The hub is where the center of the blades are. So,
Is there a budget for, is there a maintenance person that is going to be looking after these?
there's a budget in the business plan. Of course, I think it's 20%. There's a percentage in the business plan that allows for maintenance and actually cost to be associated for maintenance each year. So if there's also warranty periods. Some of these turbines vary in warranty periods from 5 years to 12 years. So that's all worked out in the business plan on the maintenance, the costs. But there are maintenance costs. Sometimes there's also an option on one of the operators here that they would actually offer an availability guarantee, which means that if the turbine isn't operating for any reason other than mechanical, they will actually guarantee that the rate that you're losing would be paid to us as well. So even if the turbine wasn't operating because of mechanical failure, we would still be generating revenue from the project.
These particular windmills, are they common around Nova Scotia, or are they new, or does anybody have these particular units up and running, and has there been any problems with these units?
There's been a lot of these turbines installed. These ones here are 50 kilowatt turbines. This project is for small wind turbine generators, and again, there's been quite a few along the province. Colchester, Cumberland has a lot of wind resource. They've had great success with their municipality. They have 5 small wind turbines, and they also have partnered with the province of Nova Scotia and Nova Scotia Power and installed a very large wind farm, actually. There was a bid that went out, and they were lucky enough to get that project. So that municipality is doing very well. You're welcome to speak to the economic development officer up there. I've spoken to him a few times. His name is I'm forgetting his name right now, but he had nothing but good things to say about the opportunity that's been given to their municipality. Also, Barrington right now just recently installed one, an E3120, which is an endurance machine, which is one of the machines we're looking at. They installed theirs at the construction and demolition site just on the Goose Lake Road, which is accessible to anybody if they want to go actually see what it looks like. You can get up to about 50, you can get right up to it. The other day I was driving by and I made a point of going there and stopping. So, yeah. And also University of St. John was one of the first actually in our area to take advantage of the CONFIT program. They have 2 50 kilowatt turbines, an older technology than what we're looking at, but 2 50 kilowatt turbines right on their campus. And Alistair Surratt has had nothing but really good things to say about the benefits CONFIT has had to their organization. They've combined theirs with solar, wind, and a biomass boiler. So they've cut their operating costs generally by half. I think he approximated that it was about $400,000 a year, and that now they're about $200,000 a year because of the investment they've made in green energy.
So I'll just say this. I remember 3 years ago when you sat around this table as a counselor for the town of Yarmouth, you had brought the issue up way back then, a year previous to that. And you're here presenting this now. So you seem pretty confident that this is a good business venture for all 3 municipal units. You still maintain that? The figures are there. I mean, they are, but I just want to hear you say that if you don't mind saying that, because you've been at this game for probably the last 4 years, and you believe strongly in this because you were quite an activist way back when, and I'm glad that you still are now. So
there's no guarantees, right? It's the variant here is the wind. We have substantial data and modeling based on the wind yields and the annual energy production for the wind in Nova Scotia and in this area. And we've hired a consultant who's analyzed the site extensively using over 5 different wind models over varying different levels of time. And based on his analysis, based on the access to 3-phase power, and based on the rate, the business plan does make sense. You'll notice the return on investment is very good. The projected net revenue is about $150,000 a year, which would be split by all 3 municipalities. And this is a 20-year project, so you're looking at about $1 million to each municipal unit. That is generated through things other than taxation. No one here at this table, I imagine, enjoys raising taxes. That's a choice sometimes you're going to be forced with, or cut service. And I don't certainly want to see services cut, and I don't want to see taxes cut. I want my cake and eat it too. This is a great way to have that, because you can have a great investment that, other than the little bit of pollution that's created by the manufacturing process, I'm not going to pretend that aluminum doesn't have to be brought out of the ground and all these other things, but once these turbines are up and running, there's no pollution. So there's no particulates in the air, there's no pollution, there's no smoke, there's no smog, there's nothing that these turbines are doing that is damaging the air quality.
I knew the answer before I asked you the question because I wanted the public to hear your explanation on your thoughts on it. So it puts it out there for the public. So I thank you for your presentation and your answers to my questions.
Thanks.
Councillor Mooney?
Thank you, Neil. Good presentation. What's the next step?
The next step is, and that's why I wanted to advise you of this notice of the small-scale community wind turbine project that I just talked about. I wanted to tell you about the community consultation that's happening on October 27th at the Rotary Center in Hebron. We'd very much appreciate all of you being there, as you're all partners in this project. Your support and your desire to see this project come to a an end and actually happen is needed, frankly. So I'd hope to see you there. It's on the 27th. We have 2 sessions, one from 12 noon to 2 and one from 4 to 6. And if you're available to come to that would be fantastic.
And who else will be with you, Neil, besides yourself?
Sorry?
Who else is going to be there besides yourself for the project?
All the hopefully all the municipal councillors from the municipality of Yarmouth and the municipality of Argyll will be there, and hopefully all the residents who are interested in having questions answered regarding this project. Certainly, I hope to see lots of residents from the Wellington area who are interested in the project. I've already received some phone calls, and I've been addressing the questions from residents that way. I've received a few emails, and certainly if you receive any, you can forward them off to me, and I'll address them. Our goal is not to leave any question unanswered, and if we can answer the question, we'll find the answer for them.
Thanks, Neil. Linda will give us a reminder, right? You.
Yeah, we need to be there. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Neil. Having just recently taken a trip by car up to Ontario, every province except through the whole trip, through every province, all we saw in the horizon was these windmills going everywhere. And sometimes up to, I counted, in one row, I counted over 24 or 25, all in one row. And I just kept seeing all this revenue streaming from these windmills. So I'm looking forward to this. You're advertising, you're getting the word out everywhere, and wherever you have advertised, we can share that. Council can put that out in the public as well.
Yep.
All right, good, because I've already been caught with something like that before. I will not share any news until it's been officially put out there by yourself or any other office. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. This is, I just wanted to, I'll be gone in a second. I just want to quickly show you, this is kind of the perspective. If everyone wants to have a view there, I showed it once already. This is a perspective of the size of the turbines to scale in the space. This is the Rose Road location, and then we had the planning department also show the tower next to it in relation to the size. So the tower in Wellington is a CTV tower. It's about 500 feet. And the turbines that we're proposing to place on that location would be sited at this location, and those are to scale as well. So that kind of gives you an idea of what they would look like in the space, and also the distance from homes. There is a setback requirement in the municipality of Yarmouth for small wind turbines like this. The setback requirement is 200 meters. We're pleased to say that these proposed locations would actually allow us to be in excess of 400 meters in most cases of any home. So we feel this location is really a responsibly sited small wind turbine project location. So.
Good. Any more questions for Neil? Good to go. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Still think we're way, way behind. Way behind.
So hearing the presentation to the mayor or CAO, do we have to do anything at this point, or has it been done? Or, I'm assuming our I's are dotted or T's are crossed, or we had a presentation, so I'm assuming there's a result coming here.
Well, the presentation was on the at the request, when some information was shared via email, there were questions. Obviously, not everyone was fully briefed on the project, and in the interest of making sure we're all fully briefed, I asked Neil to come in and do this. The public consultation meeting is the next thing that you should take to heart in terms of, sorry, in terms of your activity to be present. But the next thing after that is we have made a provision in our capital budget for this project, and so if we advance the project, there will be a tendering process, procurement process. Really, there's not a lot more for you to do, except support the project.
And show support at that meeting, because sometimes one voice is heard and the other isn't, and we're in support, so. Thanks, Neil. Okay, can we do the Christmas parade now, and then we'll do the Christmas parade, Barb, so you can go work on the float. Okay? If you want, in case councilors have any questions. Okay. So it's in the package here somewhere, but you're asking us for funds.
I am. $700. And the way that it's written, it looks like more than that. If I can backtrack just a bit. For 15 years, I've been doing the parade. And in all that time, what I've wanted to see for the Christmas Parade of Lights is a grand, beautiful Santa float. And that's what I'm waiting for all this time. This year, I had someone design a double float. It's going to have 10 structures, 10 houses on it. Each of those houses is approximately $100 to build. They have been built, and I have gone out into the community and secured the money in donations for those houses. So what it looks like on the paper is that I'm actually looking for more money than I am. It's the top half of the budget. I'm not that great at writing a budget out. So it normally takes $500 at least just to put the parade on, because you need gifts for the judges, you need an ad for the paper, you need to pay for the awards, and I like to give the Ground Search and Rescue a donation because they are out all day, they're standing in the cold, dealing with people, directing traffic, being told off, that sort of thing. So I'm asking for an extra $200 on top of that to put the parade on, because I need brushes, and I'm going to get some paint donated, already have some from the community. And then little things that come up. Like yesterday, I lost my Santa Claus because he's not able to do it this year. So I have gone out and I found another Santa and Mrs. Santa. I would like to be able to make costumes for them, but I'm going to try and get the material donated. If I can't, then I'm probably going to have to buy it. So I'll have to cut a little bit from here and there, but I can do it. I've done it before.
Good.
And I'll do it again if I have to.
Councillor Langeau?
Her worship will probably throw something at me for suggesting this. And Barb, you've done an amazing job over the years, and
Thank you.
think everybody around this table recognizes that. And thank you, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Nickeling and diming is one thing, and there's contingencies, and God
Yes.
love you, you put a request in for 700. I don't know. I'd like to make a motion that we grant the Santa Claus Parade in Barb Firth an amount not to exceed $1,000, just to give you that little cushion. So you will have your 700, but
Okay.
but give that little $300 cushion on what the rest of the table feels. Give her that little extra. I mean, she's done an admirable job, and it's a beautiful event, and believe me,
Thank
it's a
you.
bargain. It's a bargain.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
I agree. I'm not going to throw anything at him. I would love the opportunity, actually.
We'll wait till he heals.
Given I'm sure he'll present more opportunities for that to happen.
Yes.
So, no, it's, yeah. And we had the discussion, you and I, about the Santa thing. But I
Yes.
think what you're saying is, that I missed, You're going to keep these and then be able
Yes.
to do
Oh,
them
yes.
every year. Yeah,
Yep.
that was the difference, yeah.
Yep, and this year, we're going to, well, they're sitting on the float.
Yep.
So what we're going to do is make the Santa and Mrs. Claus costumes from the waist up, and then another year, we'll work on the waist down.
Just make them warm, because boy, she's cold.
Right, yes. Lots of blankets. Yeah.
And it's not me this year. Councillor McIsaac?
Thank you, Your Worship. Jeff, my question's for you. Do we have the $1,000? And if we do, where is it at and where's it coming from?
Go ahead.
We do have a small provision for Christmas within the operating budget.
Okay.
And some of the other items that we normally support at Christmas time, we'll have to talk about in
Okay.
some form, but
Yeah.
I
It's a
think,
good cause. This is a good cause.
yeah,
yeah.
I think there won't be an issue.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Good, so the motion's on the floor and seconded. Questions called, all those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
Well, thank you, that didn't hurt at all.
Didn't.
Thanks very much.
Okay, we're back up to staff report, CAO report. That's the green energy. Anything for the CAO? Councillor Dawes? We just go in order of the lights. So that would be Councillor McIsaac now.
Yes, thank you. Thank you again, Jeff. This question's for you. Last 2 weeks ago, I brought up the issue on Hawthorne Street, the lighting. I see it's 50%. What does 50% mean? Half a light there, or flashlight, or what?
CAO? Oh, no.
Just a little humor. Little humor. I feel we might need it for as it progresses along today.
No, if you turn it off, it's okay. It's all right. We just,
Okay, so what 50% means is that I have asked the engineer to look into that. I've also visited what I think is the location, but I did have a question since you've brought it up. There are a couple of parking lots along Hawthorne Street. One is on the old Colony Motel, and the other one is across the road behind where the liquor store is, and that's where I thought. And I did look there myself to kind of get, during the daylight, mind you, but to see what lighting was in the area. Yeah, and it is, I mean, if we are talking about lighting in the parking lot, that is a private parking lot. That is not public property.
good. Councillor Mooney?
Thank you, Your Worship. Jeff, the mayor's photo fund thing. We'll get you next time on that one? Get you later, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Picasso.
Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. To the CAO, on the last point on page 1 has to do with the information sticker / magnet.
Yeah.
In working with EMO to, for residents to have handy and ready to know where to call, what to do in case of an emergency. Our storm season is coming closer all the time. How soon do you think we're going to get this done and ready and out on people's fridges?
Okay, so I had requested information from EMO concerning this, and what I got back was information on how to register for City Watch. And in reflecting on that, I didn't think that was really appropriate, because once you register for City Watch once, you're done. So you no longer require that information to be on your fridge, right? You can toss it as soon as you've registered. So it does require a more generic message, which I think is what this looked for. What number to call, what to do in the case of emergency. So I'm left to do that on my own. I'll have to engage somebody. Yeah, no, it's not that difficult. Just a graphic design piece is the piece that you want to get. You want a magnet, I think, that is fairly attractive, that people aren't going to mind having on their fridge or in some convenient location. Just a matter of engaging somebody to do that simple design.
Thank you. It just has to be informative. People out there, they
And it has
don't
to be-
know. First of all, I believe it all began with many residents, they needed help in defining what is an emergency.
Right.
And who to call when in case of an emergency,
Right.
once the emergency has been defined and identified. And then just basic 1, 2, 3, this is who you call. That's all they're asking for.
So just to that point, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
To that point, we do have a non-emergency 24-hour call line with the town.
Yes.
We could include that information on the magnet as well. So in the case of...
That would be helpful.
You know, on the weekend or evening, a sewer backup, you know, it's not an emergency, but it's a heck of an inconvenience, and it is an emergency in a particular home and household. We can provide that information as well as the bona fide community emergency number.
2 thumbs up.
Can do.
All right, thank you very much.
Anything else for the CAO? Fire Department report. Hello, Chief. We missed you this weekend. I think there was a banquet. And it was really good, full house, and your deputies did you proud. So any questions for the chief here? Councillor Langell, go ahead.
Observation, Your Worship, only, and I don't know, Chief, if this is possible or not. I'm a bit of a statistic individual. What's the chances on your report that you could have your emergency calls, your responder, blah, 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 your count and your year-to-date, but a comparative to last year?
Yeah, I give a yearly report, and we can get them for you if you like.
That'd be kind of nice
compare
to
it year
see
year.
each month, then you can see your comparisons, see any variances show up. Because right now you kind of look at this and say, well, is that good, is that bad? You know, are we up, are we down, or how do we compare?
They're all bad.
Yeah, they're all bad, we know that, but are we bad, if you know what I mean? Yeah, that'd be my only observation.
You know, that reminds me what he was just saying. Somebody said at the thing Saturday night or whenever it was, about the heat pumps, so less house fires. Is that true? Was it just?
Well, I didn't see any data on that. I
No,
haven't seen
okay.
any, but-
I just didn't know if it was just, you know, with people putting heat pumps in and taking out their, you know, their wood stoves or whatever, and I thought, I don't think we take out our wood stoves when we put our heat pump in, but
No,
I
we
didn't know
don't,
if you had data or.
No,
if
I
it was just a
haven't seen any
comment.
data on
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Okay, good. Anything else for the chief? Thank you. Planning Department. Lots here.
So my report, the Planning Department's report, was distributed to you before the meeting. Before I take questions, though, there are a few items I do want to highlight. Over the last year that I've been here, I often get calls from people who are in vulnerable situations, and it's not necessarily related to my job, but I feel bad and would like to know how to help them. And I think as counselors, and I've talked to quite a few of you about this, you have the same experience. Someone calls and something, and they're just in a very unfortunate situation, and you want to know who to help. So how to help, who to call. So I've organized a networking event with some key organizations that help. And so that's on Monday at the Rod Grand from 1:30 to 4:30. Our town staff are going to be there and present as well, but we've also invited Housing Nova Scotia, Adult Protection, the Fire Marshal's Office, the Residential Tenancies Program, Shift Youth Services. So all of these groups are going to be there and present and be able to kind of give us a good idea about what they do and how they can help us when these people come, and who to contact. So I just wanted to highlight that and let council know that that's happening, and I hope it'll be a really valuable experience for you if you get to attend. I also wanted to let you know there's a change in the building officials' monthly report this month. So as you are aware, our building official enforces our minimum housing bylaw, and prior to this month, she wasn't actually reporting that work, and that was because it's kind of hard. There are sticky situations. You don't want to put too much information about people's living arrangements and properties. However, she's trying out a new format to let you know that she is doing this work and that a lot's being done in our office around minimum housing. So we've included that in her report, and we're hoping to keep doing that. Yeah, so those are the two things I really wanted to highlight, and now I can take questions on my report if you're.
First of all, thank you. The whole minimum housing thing, and I've sent you a number of notes because you get the, like everybody on council, you get the emails and the Facebooks and everything like that. So I can't go on Monday. I'm in Halifax. But I have a couple questions. So can I just send those to you and maybe you can find those answers?
I can do that.
You know, that
yeah.
whole fear piece. People are afraid to even report the mess that they're in because the landlords will throw all those pieces. So there was another one too, but I can't remember. 54, that's what happens. Councillor Lando?
Thank you, Your Worship. I love words. Words are a great thing, but sometimes words I can't figure out. And the word I can't figure out, and please help me out with this one, designed a map for the Economic Development Officer, quote, calculating acres in zoning layers. Can you explain to me what exactly that is? This map was in the other, at a meeting yesterday, and a couple people asked about that, and I was curious, what is calculating acres in zoning layers?
I'm looking at Natalie because that was a project done for Natalie, and I'm not sure what the outcome was.
I'm just curious what it is.
This is a map that Tracy designed for you. She's got a little image of it, and it looked like it was just.
It's a pretty map.
It looked like it outlined different zones that you were interested in, possibly different commercial type campuses, and maybe the acreage of what was available there.
Is this in the planning report?
Yep, yes it is.
I'm missing it.
It's on, Pam, it's on page 10. I was just curious because I think the map is over there, and I was asked by a couple people in Communities in Bloom what it was all about, and I wasn't sure, and I was just curious. I thought maybe this is land available, or is it, I just wasn't sure.
So I had asked Tracy to do an exercise to identify the number of acres available per zone. So for example, we had 50 acres of industrial zoned land, or the same, what the value would be for commercial. So it sort of gives an idea of our total availability, and then the exercise from there would be to identify what has been occupied or being used and what is not occupied for development. So that's what that meant. We hadn't gone through it in detail past that.
Good question. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. You brought up a very, very good point just now, the fear that many people have in calling. And I just wanted to share with everyone that that fear factor is decreasing slowly in the renters with the assurance that there is anonymity. Anonymity does exist. If they call in, they have questions, or if they feel afraid. So more and more, slowly, the numbers are slowly increasing. They understand that no one's going to be throwing them out or biting their head off. In fact, the anonymity is helping them.
Good. Thank you. Anything else for Caroline? Good, thank you. Operational. Engineers report. So, Main Street bump outs, Cliff and Brown, is that for the spring?
Yes.
I assume, yeah?
Yeah, that's scheduled to be done or tendered in the spring.
Okay. And I just had a couple questions about the Jarvis Road. There's work being done there. Just the question was holes and just the state of the road. So I don't know if it's in bad shape because there's work being done, or if somebody needs to take a peek. I don't know.
I've been over it a number of times in the last few days,
Yeah.
going down the job site in Broad Brook there. And
Yeah.
it is a little bit bumpy, but we're going to be doing some more work as soon as the tender closes on the Jarvis Road drainage system.
Yeah.
So that'll be eventually corrected once that work is all complete.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions. Anything else for Dave? Go ahead.
Yes, I did have just one quick question for Dave, if I can figure out where I am here. Yeah, Dave, the, back to the Cliff and Brown Street, the design is underway, you report. When will that, is that going to be tendered in the spring? Any chance of that being tendered before the spring, so that we could get work going in the spring?
Well, I mean, it can be tendered in the new year, but I mean,
yeah.
once we get everything all tidied up and ready to go, early spring, I mean,
The reason I'm raising it is that when we do work in around Cliff Brown or Maine, we get an immediate screaming session from merchants. And personally, I don't know what my colleagues feel, Your Worship, but I'd like to see the work start there sooner in the spring than later, i.e. have that tender out in January, whatever you got to do, award it, and with the assumption that most of the problem will be, so we say, rectified before the June, July, before our tourism season hits, because I know we've had some nightmares. I know the CAO and others around this table have experienced them, where traffic flow becomes quite sketchy when we're doing major construction. So I would really urge, if we could get that out sooner than later, with the idea of an early start in the spring to the construction.
Can we do that, Dave?
we can get out early, but you're not going to be finished before the tourist season.
Good. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question with regards to number 8, Stars Road traffic light pedestrian crossing. It says that the tendering date, I can do this,
No
the
response.
closing date on the tender process was on October 19th. No responses were received. Where does that leave us? What are we going to do?
Well,
What's the next step?
I'm going out with invited tender this time to selected companies, and hopefully they'll respond. We've contacted them by phone and just asked them if they would be interested, and at least 2 of them will be. One, for whatever reason, missed the tender altogether on the procurement site. So,
But not lack of interest, it was just a miss, right?
well, a lot of them are busy right now,
Yeah.
and you got to prod them a little bit sometimes.
Okay, okay. Good. Yeah. And, yeah, okay, good. Anything else for Dave? We're good? Thank you. Compost bagging update.
We haven't made any progress yet, but we're hopefully going to be doing some bagging within the near future. I haven't been able to talk to the manager to get an update, but
Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, this came up yesterday at Communities in Bloom indirectly, a suggestion was made, Your Worship. The issue around the bagging, and Dave can correct me, has been moisture. The problem is we're in this vicious cycle that come spring, when we ideally would like to bag our compost, the compost is weighing 50 tons a bag, and then by the time it's ready in the fall, it's a little bit aerated and therefore it's a little out. Your Worship, we, members of our community, very nicely and generously and participated in the painting of the Allwood plant. It seems to me, I'm wondering if, with your good graces, Your Worship, if the owner of that plant would consider allowing us to store some compost in it over the winter months. It'd be an excellent dry facility for it, that we could have it in the spring. It's a facility that's sitting there. I mean, the compost isn't smelly. It's actually there's no smell to our compost at all. But I'm wondering if we had a spot to put it, because I'm afraid if we wait, we're never going to get this stuff bagged, because now's the time we should be literally bagging it. And we're going to be hitting wet weather in frigid. We're into almost 0 temperatures now. But to find a home for a quantity of it, and looking at that Allwood plant, I mean, that would be a prime spot for it, because it's sitting there. The chances of it selling over the winter is slim. And just even if we bring in, if the owners would agree, drop off 3 or 4 tandem loads of it and let it sit there over the winter months, and then we could bag it at leisure in the spring, just as a thought, or some facility like that.
Can't hurt to ask. And I was just saying to Jeff, is it dry? Because it's not, I don't know how dry it is in there either, but at least it's up off the sopping ground. But go ahead, CAO.
Right, so it has been I agree with Councillor, it has been an unfortunate series of events, I guess, where we find ourselves now with all the labeling issues we had, and then the moisture issues. I mean, the stuff is like a sponge, but even when it's covered, it seems to wick moisture up out of the ground. So we've tried covers to try and get us to that degree of dryness. Nothing wrong with the idea at all. If council is supportive, then we can do that. We have, and I've talked to the engineer about, costs of one of these buildings like the salt shed kind of thing. How much are those? And you're getting into, 6 figures, and then it's, well, is it worth it? Is it worth it? I mean, we've put there's a lot of money invested in that final product already, but unless we can get the product into people's hands, it's a wasted opportunity. So it's probably a worthwhile thing to do, to see if we can do something more reasonable, like use somebody else's building.
Thank you, Your Worship. That being said, I'd like to make a motion that staff be directed to contact the owners of the former Yarmouth Allwood plant for consideration of allowing us to store some compost in the facility over the winter months, with the idea of bagging it in the spring for the betterment of our community through our project.
Any discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Anything else for engineering? Finance? Jerry's not here. Yeah, go ahead.
I apologize. One more for Dave. Dave, how are we making out with the police station?
The only thing left to do there is the handrail and the handicap ramp, and that'll be done before they move in, which is the first part of November. They're doing whatever they do for their operations, so.
Good, thank you. Go ahead.
So I did speak to our staff sergeant about the building, expressed that you folks as councillors have supported this project, would like an opportunity to go through and see the finished product, and he was 100% on side with that. I thought you may wish to do that after they've moved in, when the thing is complete. So once they've moved in, we'll arrange a date and time.
Go ahead, Councillor.
This is not to Dave, but to the CAO. What are we going to do with the old one?
Well, it's on the list there, right? It's on the CAO's report. I've talked to internal. There's no special interest in that building. You could divest the building and the lot that it sits on. There might be some private sector interest. The issue would be is how to zone it. Is currently institutional, I would say, as a police station. It is not in a commercial area. It's in more of a residential area. But that's something we could look at in terms of the planning side of it. And if you wish to test the market, see if there's interest in there, we could do that. But we don't have an internal use for it at this time that anyone has identified.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Frank?
Thank you. I'll just mention a few things. We had our Recreation Nova Scotia conference last week at the Digby Pines. Thank you to Councillor Mooney and Councillor McIsaac for attending. And I'll just flash this at you. I've got a bunch of these on order. At that meeting, we did pass a shared strategy for advancing recreation in Nova Scotia. And I'll make sure everyone has a copy of it. But just a quick highlight of this strategy. 5 goals are outlined in the strategy: active living, inclusion and access, connecting people and nature, supporting in our natural, physical, and social environments, and our recreation capacity of the recreation field are some of the major outlines there. But I'll make sure that all of council gets copies of those for their information. As far as the recreation department, I'll just go through a few things. Our facilities have shifted from outdoor into indoor gymnasiums and community halls. So we've got Lake Milo and the Rotary Center quite busy with various activities, martial arts, fitness classes, seniors programs, and sports activities are starting up in 4 of our local gymnasiums. Sad to announce that we have been using the old Yarmouth Junior High gymnasium through a special arrangement made by Town Council. So thank you for that, but that is coming to an end the end of this month. As you all know, there's demolition taking place on the site, and we've been advised that it's not safe for community activities to be going in and out of the school. So we'll see what happens after demolition and see if we can gain access to that building once that's completed. A few important events that are happening in the next few weeks. Our Yarmouth County Athletic Awards banquet is November the 13th at École Secondaire de Paramba in Tusket. October 26th, this coming Monday, is our Jack-o'-lantern walking parade on Main Street here. Tree lighting, Town Hall, Friday, November the 27th. We always light the tree the Friday evening before the Christmas parade, which is on November the 28th. Also, the municipality of the District of Yarmouth has their tree lighting on December the 4th. That's a Friday evening. We are actively searching for an active living coordinator with Yarmouth Recreation. Maura Carter has completed employment with us. She decided to go back to school. So we are currently advertising for an active living coordinator and have renegotiated another 5-year term with the province. And just for your information, the province does help out with the costs of that position. We get $20,000 as a municipal unit, and because we are have a joint service, we receive an extra $5,000 for having 2 municipal units involved. So $25,000 in annual funding over the next 5 years. Misty James is busy doing lots of seniors activities, and she's got a little seniors, it's called 50 Plus Pushing Silver newsletter that we've distributed to numerous seniors in the area. And some of the activities that she has lined up for this fall are pickleball, social swims at the Rod Grand, seniors dances, and health and wellness classes. So she's trying to get the seniors active and moving, and they are active and moving. Something new starting up out in the Hebron area, we have ping pong, open ping pong nights. Basically, there was a table tennis, ping pong or table tennis. We had a local table tennis club form about 2 years ago, and the club dissolved and donated about $6,500 worth of equipment to the Recreation Department. So we have 6 world-class tables, a number of bats and balls, and we even have a table tennis robot that allows you to play table tennis by yourself. So all that's been inherited to the Rec Department, and we're having open table tennis on Wednesday nights at the Rotary Center in Hebron. Another one of our programs is an After the Bell program. One of our priorities as part of our active living strategy is to get female youth more active, and we have an after the school program taking place with Maple Grove Junior High girls, and they do a variety of different activities, and healthy snacks are worked into this program, but they've got planned archery, pickleball, tennis, humans versus zombies, a field trip to Ellenwood Park, yoga, swimming, various types of activities there. So that's what's going on with the Recreation Department.
What was the date for the awards?
November the 13th, Friday evening at École Secondaire de Paramba. We had originally planned to have the event at the old Yarmouth Junior High gym, but anyway, didn't work out.
Okay. Any questions for Frank? Lots of stuff going on. It's all good. It's all good. This probably isn't a question for Frank, but it's related. We need to maybe get that rink that was donated to Play On up and running. Can you, is it appropriate to ask and to talk to Gail about that? Yeah? Would you mind?
Yep. I've talked to Gil before, and I guess the issue is finding a place to put it. There's no, we need a level paved surface to put that up. So that's the issue, is that you know, there is paved spots at the Mariner Center, but we know what it's like on hockey game nights and event nights, and there's no, as far as we know, there's no municipal lot that, you know, if we did find a magical place to put it, I would, you know, in the spring, summer, and early fall, we could book the arena out just like we book gyms and classrooms out. But that's the difficulty, is finding a spot for it. But I can talk to Gil about it.
Yeah, we've got to, I'll let Phil and then Natalie.
Maybe the upper parking lot of the RCMP station. The old RCMP station.
Yeah.
Or,
I'll go check it out.
I think, and does the boards and the facility, the equipment, that's owned by the Mariner Center? Maybe you might have to invest in putting a cement pad right out in the front of the thing, right out in the middle, right on Stars Road, man. What a better place to have a ground hockey game. But maybe we'll have
Until your hotel goes up.
well, we'll put the hotel on the side.
Thank you.
Good, thanks, Frank. Natalie, did you?
Oh, I was suggesting tennis courts, but Frank says it's booked up until December,
Oh, okay.
your tennis courts.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, Natalie, economic development.
I'm here to answer any questions that you might have for my report.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Looking at the report, excellent, well done, etc. Of late, we've been hearing disturbing news that, contrary to the Ivany report, which is all sunshine and apple pie, that we seem to be almost provincially centric in Halifax. And my question to Natalie, and maybe Her Worship, because I'm out of the loop on this, we're losing jobs in this community, good jobs, as the government downsizes. Court records are gone. We understand the registry of motor vehicles may be privatized, et cetera, et cetera. So even though the Ivany report is all sunshine and apple pie, I'm afraid there's a few worms crawling around that apple pie. And that worms are unionized jobs, which pay very good salaries in our community, are disappearing. Where are we at with this? If we haven't heard our MLA hasn't said anything. Mark Fury, I know, is saying little. Government is saying less. But the word is out there that government jobs, especially in small town Nova Scotia like Yarmouth, is going the way of the dodo bird. And I hate to see these jobs, which are like $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year jobs, being replaced by minimum job call centers. So has there been any discussions with government on these positions? Because to me, we're not doing enough to keep these jobs in our community, because it's great to maybe bring in 2 or 3 call center jobs, but on the other hand, and they pay very well, and I'm not referring to web.com, by the way, they pay excellent, but I'm referring bringing in jobs that are near a minimum, when in reality, 3 of those jobs equal 1 of these jobs. And those are big bucks, and unfortunately what will happen is we lose those jobs. A lot of those people are young, in their 30s and 40s, and they're going to be leaving the community. So it's a double banger for us. So I'm just wondering, where do we stand with these?
I think, Your Worship, you would have to answer the one to do with the government.
I can answer a couple of them. The Ivany report I read is anything but sunshine. It's exactly the opposite. The other piece is, are we having those discussions about the jobs? Absolutely. Absolutely. Some of them are, well, union jobs, so that's a different ball game. And then I was going to say something else, and there it was gone.
I can't speak to the government jobs, but I've started the business retention and expansion visits, and to date I've met with a couple of businesses, but they're generally retail. My hope is that as I get through November, I will have a small cluster that I can start to provide some feedback, but in all the cases, in meeting with these businesses, they're expanding. They're looking to increase their human resources by about 5 to 10%. But again, I agree with you, they're not the higher paying jobs, even though they're at a manager's level in some cases. But I hope to provide you more data as I start to move through and meet with more businesses.
And this isn't a popular answer, but it's sort of like us. There's only so much money to go around. So what do you do? Do you just keep paying for the sake of paying, or do you trying to find a different, better way to do things? So there's a mixture, right? It's got to find that even mixture. Go ahead, Madeline.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your reports are A, easy to read, and B, they're fun to read as well, because it gives us, we can see on paper that yes, we are moving forward. We see motion on paper, not motion on paper, but we see
To
on
come,
paper
to
that
come.
we're moving forward. I just wanted to tell you that your 4-phase project management dashboard that you put in your report.
Yes.
Love it. That pretty well puts absolutely everything that you are doing right on one piece of paper, right before our eyes, and it saves us a lot of questions to you.
Well,
you know exactly what you're doing and where.
Yeah.
You've been busy.
Sorry to interrupt. That one is specifically related to the large project to do with our place branding and signage project, which is a long project with 2 critical milestones. One is related to our First Impressions program, which has a deadline for earlier in the year, and the other one is related to our rollout of the streetscape project. So For Media will be here on the evening of November 5th to present to you the 66% completion of the design concept. And then the following committee of the whole.
Did you just say November 5th?
Yes, that's an evening.
We're all we're not at UNSM? Nobody's here.
Oh, so there's no council meeting?
That's the 12th.
That would make sense if you're not here, that there's not a council meeting. Get last one to know.
Yeah. So
Well,
does
then
that,
we'll reschedule it to the
Yeah.
19th then, and we might have to do a couple of things expedited. Thanks, Madeline.
okay.
Councillor Madeline.
So page 2, Music Week signage, did we do that? I saw the signs too, I just want to make sure.
So I've put together a request for decision. I'm just really helping out that volunteer committee. They've identified different locations within the town to do promotional signage. So these are the locations that would be on public lands. So as per our policy, I just wanted to get council approval that the 2-by-2 foot signs would be allowed in these specific areas. There are other areas that they'll also be putting it, but I've directed them to speak with the owners of those properties to make sure that they get approval, and that if there were any that would be put on TIR property, that they get approval from those ones as well.
So we need a motion for that right now? Oh, sorry. I did read that. Okay, we'll do that in a second. Then Councillor Landrieu?
Yeah, one thing, back to keeping our jobs. Haven't given up on that one yet. I'm like a dog with a bone. One thing I've missed these last 3 years is that the previous government, which had good reason not to come, which had good reason not to come to Yarmouth after the ferry debacle, at least we met with the Minister of Municipal Affairs every year. In private, twice a year. And numerous government people who dared to come down in those very turbulent times. And previous to that, we also met on a regular basis. We also used to meet with our MLA on a regular basis. And help me if I'm wrong, but in the last 3 years, I haven't met with our MLA as a council. Maybe I've missed a meeting or so. We haven't seen the Minister of Municipal Affairs, the previous one. I don't recall. Maybe I missed that meeting. So it's what's happening on the government level? Can we maybe meet with some of these people, or are meetings going on that we're not involved in? I'm curious, because to me, to echo our concern of these jobs again, I think it is important that they hear it from a council in a forum where we are meeting with the ministers involved. And in this case, it turns out one of the ministries would be municipal affairs, which conveniently is our own MLA. I'm just wondering, where do we stand with meetings with ministers? Is that gone by the way of the dodo bird, or?
I would suggest no. The last time we tried to put together a meeting with Minister Churchill, I think we got 2 responses. So we just canceled it because we don't need him to come in his schedule for 2 people. It's not fair. So, but we did that. We did that, and there are so we send out emails asking questions or trying to set dates, and often there's very little response. It's almost like, well, we'll show up. You should know we'll show up. But when you have somebody coming in, it's really it's unfair to that individual to set a date and them set time aside in their schedules, and ours too, not knowing if people are going to come. So it's, you know, and Linda has sent out reminders. We just need to know who's coming and who isn't. We just need to respond, just out of respect, if nothing else, you know. So, I mean, it's easy to set up. I say it's easy. It's not that easy, but I speak to the minister, or to our MLA and minister, on a regular basis. The Minister of Business on a regular basis. He's dealing with tourism. He's dealing with business as well. So, so I've had the blunt conversations about the jobs. Councillor Mooney?
Yeah, no, you must have read my paper, Councillor Lynch. Okay, but, you know, the previous government, they moved some of their departments, like you have health is in Truro. You have, they moved jobs from Halifax to Windsor with tourism. They moved jobs from fisheries to Shelburne. They moved jobs from finance to Sydney. It seems like we went from one end of the province. We kind of missed this end of the province. I think we have a minister there sitting around the cabinet table, and they're talking about the Advan report, and that was in it, about moving government jobs to other ends of the province. Where are we at? We have a minister of communications. There's 100 people in communications. Starting, I think in the early 1970s, they had 1 half-time person. Now we have 100 people in communications working for the government of Nova Scotia, which is probably too many, but why, with today's technology, why wouldn't we have some of those jobs here in Yarmouth? They've gutted the hospital. You know, we haven't seen Mr. Glavine. He grabbed a hold of me here 2 or 3 months ago, and he didn't like one of the comments that he heard I made about our gutting of the hospital up there on the 5th floor. It's like time after people up there on the 5th floor. There's nobody there on one end of the floor. It's like those jobs have gone to Kentville. He said, Janet Knox here 6 months ago said they had a plan for Yarmouth. I haven't seen or heard or had an inkling of anything from the head of the new amalgamated authority, and people up there are still fearful of their jobs up in the hospital. You know, people I know, people have sold their house, had an opportunity to sell their house, have rented another space because they're not sure on the next round that they're going to be still working in Yarmouth. So here we have people divesting of property, not investing in their properties, getting rid of the stuff because they're scared they might have to leave. So we need assurances from Mr. Glavine, our own MLA, Mr. Churchill, and the Premier of Nova Scotia that there won't be any further cuts here at the Yarmouth Hospital, Yarmouth Regional Hospital, and look at, we're going to have an opportunity in a week or a week and a half, and hopefully our new Member of Parliament will be there. We'll corner and buttonhole every cabinet minister, and the Premier should be there, is tell them, let's bring some of these jobs here to Yarmouth. We've lost a lot of jobs. So, and with the privatization, and it's going to happen at Service Nova Scotia out there on Stars Road with the Department of Motor Vehicles and all the registry programs, there are significant government jobs that could be leaving this area. So We have a Liberal government. I think we have good red representation sitting around the table. We've got a nice sweater there. And now's our prime opportunity. The stars have aligned. We have a Liberal government in Ottawa now. We have a Liberal government in Halifax for the next 2.5 years. We have a Liberal cabinet minister sitting around the table. It's our time. Oh.
Did you have something? Go ahead.
No, I just want to, just on Minister Churchill, as the Minister of Municipal Affairs, his office was trying to actually make us the first stop on his minister's tour. That's the meeting we canceled, but that is the tradition when a new minister is appointed to that portfolio, that they visit every municipality within the province within the first year of their mandate. So we will be visited specifically on that tour, and we were going to be the first, but it didn't work out. And Minister Fury did come. He did come and meet with us in the other end of the room, but I don't recall who was present. But in his defense, he did pay a visit.
And actually, just a few months back, Zach, we had a meeting with Zach, and I think, were you there? Bill was there. I was there. Nobody else showed up. So we need to, if we're going to plan meetings, show up. Go ahead.
Well, unless there's something wrong, I try to show up. Your Worship, and back to Councillor Mooney's comment, and we didn't even touch, I didn't even think of the hospital, and I should have spent enough time there. The Yarmouth Hospital is like second to none, and there's another example of very good jobs. And if you've been reading Frank magazine, we haven't seen our particular one yet on the salaries, but I assume there's a lot of money being made in this area. So, I mean, I really feel we've got to stress here to keep what we have. And that brings the next question up. REN. We're sitting with a REN now. Whether our partners like it or not, Yarmouth is a regional hub. That's reality check. You can't argue that Barrington Passage is the regional hub, or Shelburne or Digby. We are the regional hub. We're the little mini Halifax that people come to. Is the REN at all interested or looking into maintaining these government positions, in this particular area? Especially when we're looking at what's really sad is we've got a fair number of people in this community who don't have transportation, who are senior, who can't go long distances. Now, to get some minuscule things done, they'll probably have to go to Halifax or to Kentville or to Bridgewater, and that's incredibly sad. And further to Councillor Mooney's comment, when I was up at the hospital, I was amazed on the professionalism and on the equipment. And this was an issue that we raised with Janet Knox when she was here. Is there any danger that that equipment that's in Yarmouth Regional Hospital is going to start to disappear with the necessary technicians? Because some of that equipment is very important to our community that we've brought into this community. Now, Knox did say, quote, no, there are no plans for it currently. I think there was a little bit, so that's an area we cannot let that worm get out from underneath that rock, because that's a very deep concern.
So let me say this, so we can say what we need to do. We can just do it. So why don't we? Is anybody opposed to sitting down at a table back there where we can sit down and hash through it, figure out what we want, where we want to go, who we want to talk to, and put everything point for point? Because you know what happens? It all gets lofty and it gets out there and it gets lost, and we can't afford for it to get lost. And Phil's right. Like everything, and we used those words probably 50 times the other night. Everything's, the stars have aligned. Let's use it. So let's put it on the books then. A motion for council to meet. What's the words?
May I suggest, Your Worship, that we do that meeting sooner than later, i.e. next week, before UNSM, because I think we should have a little strategy in place before we hit the hallowed halls of UNSM, especially where we have a handful of ministers running around there every time. I would gladly make myself available 24/7 next week for such a meeting for strategy, because I think those of us who are going to UNSM, it would be nice that if we have some lobbying to do, because some of us are friends with some of the ministers, others don't, but some of us know them, and we may have to put some bugs in some ears, and if that's what we got to do, let's do it. So I think, why don't we set a date right here now?
Tuesday morning.
Works for me.
9 o'clock Tuesday morning. Linda, can you send out a reminder? We'll meet here. Just get your heads thinking about where you want to go, what you want to put on the,
Yeah,
Right.
because we have confit that night, but that's it.
yeah, that at noon and at,
In the evening, there's 2 sessions,
4,
both
yeah.
the same. Yes, we can cancel them.
yeah.
So I'm all for it.
Okay, good. I'm
Do it.
putting that in right now.
Do it.
Tuesday, the 27th at 9 o'clock.
And I'd like Natalie to be there if at all possible.
That would be great.
Can you do that? Thanks, Nat.
Yeah.
I
And any
wrote it
other
down.
staff, and any other staff that the CAO feels, really that, well, yeah, duh. You're part of the woodwork. Yeah, we need the solicitor really bad.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. How long would that meeting be? That would run from 9 until when, please?
Well, let's put 11.
Yeah.
Because I have an 11 o'clock dental appointment that day.
Okay, then 9, we'll put 9 till 11, and
Dentists
if
are
we
never
go
on
over and you
time.
have to leave, or if we're done early, then that works.
That works, good.
Thank
you,
you.
Your Worship.
Perfect.
You're going to send out a reminder.
Yeah, Linda will do that. So we've all agreed, so we should all be there.
Okay, so the next question, talking about replies. Did you get everything you need for the website? Everybody sent in their lists?
Unfortunately, no.
Mine's just the same.
I thought perhaps I was trying to rethink about how we could do it that would make it easier.
Easier would probably be whatever's listed, unless
Yeah, so
somebody
your
sent something
so
in.
your committees are up to date, I believe, as they stand on the website to date. So my thought is, one of the things that is really important to the community is just to have a little bit of an inkling of your tenure on council. So I could probably get some information with regards to length of service that you've been on council, and I can just make that as the sentence if that's appropriate and agreeable to you guys.
Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. My apologies to you, Natalie. I thought that after the vehement decision to not go with new photos, I made the error of assuming, okay, we're just going to leave everything the way it is. We're not going to.
We're going to use the
touch
existing
anything.
photos unless you give me something different.
All right.
But in our next committee of the whole session, I would like to do the presentation to show you the website. The website is very modern in its appeal, and it's very community focused. So you'd be able to see yourself very quickly, and there are many different ways to navigate the information. You'll have 25 ways to slice and dice it. There will be no way that you can't find something. So believe me. So yes, so I will take, based on your feedback today, we're looking for the disc with your photos, and then we'll just put the committees that you're on and just your tenure, and then next council, perhaps we'll have a little bit more formalized bios,
Good?
if
Thanks.
that's acceptable.
Good for me. Councillor Langell?
Your Worship, yeah, and again, Natalie, like Madeline, I apologize. I'm happy with what is there, except the photograph, I'm 50 pounds heavier, but...
I'll Photoshop it.
No, don't bother. Don't bother. Mooney looks far worse than I do, so we're okay. But I would like to ask you, when you do review, there's on mine, and I think maybe in a couple of others, there's that ugly term called SWASDA.
Yeah.
If you could possibly delete that as part of our committees. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Mooney. Yeah, you tossed it to me. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I remember it well. But no, other than that, and I had my statement and everything in there like you asked for, so.
Yeah.
So everything's
That's
pretty well
great.
current.
Yours is the only one, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you. Oh, and just a little shout out, if I sent you an email about Nova Scotia Music Week, they really would like our support in promoting it. It's a little bit running slow with regards to ticket sales. So we've got an ad that is coming out in the brochure. I've asked Linda if we can also put that on our Facebook, but I would appreciate as much as you can just to get the word out.
Yeah.
They need more volunteers. This is a significant event for our community, especially at this time of the year.
I did post the volunteers today. Go ahead.
And just to mention too, you probably know this, we have being involved with too many events in Yarmouth, and I know Councillor Dawes has been the same way. Yarmouth has got a very odd phenomenon. It's called the 24-hour phenomena. Like when we did the seafood extravaganza, like the day before we had 40 people,
Yes.
then all of a sudden 200 show up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's the hardest community to plan an event for, because people last minute, boom,
Yeah.
there they are. I'm not doing anything tonight, let's go. So all of a sudden your music week, you know, you're looking, oh my God, we've only got 50 people coming, and all of a sudden 400 show up, and that's what happened the last music week. We were suddenly packed. So
Yeah.
it's going to be.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to the organizing committee.
Yeah. Well, we're using all of our networks, so we're hooked into the Chamber of Commerce. Certainly CHLS ads have been on there. We're going to try to do a news event. We're also looking at if buskers on the street, using our new policy, so that, again, we can get that energy going within the community. So we're trying to help all of us together, holding hands to make sure it's successful. And Chicks with Sticks is on this weekend, just a little plug there.
You going to that? Oh, yeah, you're going away. Okay. All right, thanks, Natalie. Recreation, economic, dangerous and unsightly. Hello, Russell. Oh, sorry, Council.
We need to make a motion, don't we, for, okay.
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to provide approval to Nova Scotia Music Week volunteers to affix lawn signs in public spaces to promote the event running from November 5th to the 9th.
Moved and seconded, discussion? Question's been called, all those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
Hi. Good afternoon, councillors and mayor. Fund submitted a summary report for your review on dangerous and unsightly premises as required by the Municipal Government Act. The Act states that the administrator shall at least twice per year table a public report to the council describing the status of the dangerous and unsightly property orders, including remedies, progress made regarding properties for which the orders were issued. So I submitted a report, and the period that I supported starts from January the 1st to September 31st of this year. It lists all the complaints that I received, and it's broken down per month, and also the orders that were issued. 29 orders were issued, and 27 of them have been completed. There's 2 active right now, and you can see through the months, some of the complaints are less, other months there's more. I've listed the garbage, repairing windows and doors, and tall grass, steps, curbside wood removals. So that's the breakdown of the report that I have. If you have any questions on that, I'd gladly answer your questions.
Councilor McIsaac?
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, it seems like you're, and I know that you're a busy person, just by looking at your report, but not only that, I bug you a lot. I call you a lot.
Yes, you do.
And,
That's a good thing.
yeah, but I do get good results, and that's why I keep calling you. You came to my house a few times to deliver packages for me, and I've always noticed garbage in your truck.
Yes.
You make it a habit of carrying garbage in your truck all the time, or is there a reason why you have a half a truckload all the time you come?
The reason, well, no, I usually empty it every 2 or 3 days, but what I do is I go around and I see some garbage on the street. It might be the wrong week that it's put out. It might be 3 or 4 black bags that are rejected. It's probably on a vacant piece of property that garbage shouldn't be there. So instead of having it broken open and blowing all over the street, I pick it up, put it in the truck to remove it off the street or the sidewalk.
Well, that's good on your part. I'm glad that you're taking that initiative. But anyway, Russell, I looked over the report, and garbage is a big issue.
It is.
And it's always been a big issue.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a big issue on delinquent delinquent apartment buildings that nobody's there. People usually throw a lot of stuff there, and that's why you get a lot of calls. But I'm very happy with the progress that you make. You do a great job, and I want to commend you for that. That's why I pressed the mic and asked you about the garbage. And I keep up the good work, and thank you for the good report.
Thank you.
Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. Russell, I think if you are just as, your truck is just as full of garbage as Sonny's pockets are. I see him when he goes up and down the streets. I think it's about every 30 or 40th step, he stoops to pick up garbage and he puts it in his pocket. So kudos to both of you. I have one question only, and when it comes to the complaints received by the following methods, you have phone, email, citizen, and discovery.
Yes.
I think your discovery is in the back of your truck.
Discovery is what yes, when I'm out on patrol, I'll see something and I'll pick it up or act on it.
Okay.
It might be blue bags or whatever, if I pick up blue bags and I can identify them. And people are pretty smart nowadays that they're not leaving any clues of where they're coming from. So I take it to the disposable factory up there by the airport, and they take my blue bags. So that disposes the blue bags, and then the garbage. There's a dumpster behind the Public Works. I try to go through there to separate because there's cans and bottles or whatever, but that's where the garbage in the back of my truck goes.
Okay,
for
thank you.
disposal.
My question is, do any of your complaints that you receive, do they cross over? Do you receive them through C-Click-Fix as well?
I get a few.
Are some of these enumerated here, are they also as a result through complaints that have been submitted through C-Click-Fix?
It's a good question because now that you brought that up, yes, there is C-Click-Fix should have been in there. It's an oversight on my part, but I go on C-Click-Fix once a week and I look at them and I've acknowledged what's going on there. So yeah, C-Click-Fix is a good medium for me to get the complaints. The amount of complaints coming is by phone. I would say 80% of my complaints come by phone, 10% are by email, 5% by citizens stop me on the street, 5% is me out on patrol finding them.
75%, Councillor. Sorry? I was just going to say 75%, Councillor McIsaac.
About 82.
And that works.
Yeah. Your numbers here in your report, do they reflect the C-Click-Fix complaints?
Yes,
or do
they
they
do.
not?
They
do. All
yes,
right. I
they
didn't
do.
know if they would inflate these numbers or not, if they were already
No.
included. Thank
These
you.
are what I actually received. There should be about a dozen C-Click-Fixes on there. We had some problems with the program and all that. Jeff set up a meeting for staff that uses it. It was very informative. We have another one that's coming up because we've set our passwords and all of a sudden they weren't there and all that. So now that we're getting the understanding of it and acknowledging them, and then we can acknowledge the people that we've seen the problem, we understand that you submitted a problem, we've acted on it, and it's a good community vehicle to get out there to tell people that we care and we're working on the problem for them, and we can get it solved. So it's a very good medium.
Yes.
Yes.
And the message is getting out there.
The message is getting out there because they'll email us back and say, well, thank you for looking after it or taking care of it. And that's good. At the end of the day, when you can go home and, if you've helped some community member, you feel good. That's what it's about. Pardon me?
And they do too.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Thank you, Russell.
Thank you.
Mayor and councilors' expense claims online, CAO. That for you?
Thank you, Worship. So, as I'm sure all of Council knows, in the last couple of weeks, Mr. Varon hasn't been in the office much as a result of personal circumstances as well as some professional development he took last week. So, as a result, I did reach out to the tax collection officer, who has been the staff person assigned to this work. She has begun the work. I asked her what level of human resource would be required in order to complete the job. It takes 2 to 3 days per counselor to do the work. She has 1 done at this point. So we're talking about 12 to 18 days, if I do my math right, 12 to 18 days of work to complete. It is a fair amount. It does take longer than I would have expected, and I can explain that a little bit.
Yep.
It seems simple enough, and if we just simply want to know how much has been spent, we can pull that directly from the financial reports, right? That's every counselor has a GL number for the travel expense. When we dig into it and try to produce, break the numbers down by meals and accommodations and travel, and then we try and come up with the actual receipts so that we know we have it right, things are not necessarily all in one place. So as a counselor, you can relate to this, I'm sure, that when you submit your travel claim after you've traveled, you would have your meals receipts attached, but you wouldn't have your registration fee for the conference or what have you. You might not have your travel attached if you flew. That would be something we've arranged through here. You wouldn't have your hotel bill attached because that was paid for directly through the town. On your hotel bill, there may be meals and other charges associated there. So it's going back and tracking where did they stay, how did they travel, pulling those invoices, attributing them to the proper counselors. It's a bit of work, and because we're going back to 2012, because we are, this far in, that means that we also have to go into files, physical files that are now in the vault downstairs. So it isn't immediately at our fingertips. So that's kind of the explanation I've gotten about the time commitment to do the work, but it is underway.
Councilor Langill?
So I, for one, would like to see that. I mean, a lot of the units are doing it. It's all part of the transparency, and we do get asked that question. So to do it in an expeditious fashion doesn't seem reasonable from what I'm seeing, given staff restraints. So what are we realistically looking at a time frame? You said there's 1 done now, so 1 is complete. Now, that's going back, but once going forward, it should be a fairly simple process. I would suggest that as claims come in, they just go boop, 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 and they're in, and they're present, I assume. But what can we do to maybe help that process a little bit?
Well, well, I'm not sure that there's really much you can do, really. You could make a notation on your expense claims when you submit them, stayed at this hotel or had, traveled on this airline if there was air travel or whatever involved, or rented a car or whatever. If you made that notation on the expense claim, because what she's doing now, this is all driven by the expense claim. So if you have submitted an expense claim, that goes into a file with your name on it, because we file by vendor, okay, so by who the check is written to. So then that's where she begins her work going backwards. Going forward, once we've got this established, it should be pretty easy to keep it up to date. You don't travel that much, and but it's because I guess we're kind of behind on this, that there's such a backlog that needs to be caught up on. So without any additional human resource, it will take a bit of time. Now, Joelle's been working on this, the tax collector's been working on this for 2 weeks, and she was able to get 1 done. So, it depends on your level of urgency. If you want it done, we could bring somebody in extra hours or whatever to try and get the work completed. If you're willing to wait for her to be able to work it within her time available, then it will take a bit longer.
Can she put them 1 at a time? Is that?
Well,
I mean, I don't care if mine's up there first or.
yeah, well, that's a possibility, and I guess in my way of thinking on this is I was anticipating that they would all be uploaded or available at the same time, in fairness, but anything is possible.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, it wouldn't bother me if they didn't come up till, before the end of the year. That wouldn't burst my bubble any if you put them up before the end of the year, before we go into the new year. Also, I'd just like to comment, I don't know if the other councilors do it or not, but I know I've made it a practice years ago to have a copy of the hotel bill. Even though I'm not paying for the hotel bill, the town is paying for it, I always make it a practice to have a copy of it, because it expedites the claim itself, and it gives them something that they can have to marry up with the original billing. So if your other councils are not doing that, perhaps they might want to look at doing that. And like you just said, the bills, if there's a meal, I usually put the meal or breakfast, whatever, down, like all total, so it's not hard to pick up. So anyway, just a thought. Thank you.
Deputy?
I would suggest that we just leave it with Jeff and his staff to work through the project without having to hire extra staff. And when it becomes available, is fine with me.
Thank you, Your Worship. My little ear picked up something here, and I'm just thinking about it. Jeff, we fill out pretty well the same expense claim as other staff. I do like the new online one. That we fill in all the little tables, and that's good. Has thought been given maybe to, you brought up some variables that we have that are unique from other staff, like you mentioned reference to the hotel room, you made reference to the airline, etc. I'm like Danny, I try to get slips for Linda when we're passed in. Would it make the job easier if we had maybe our own design claim that would work better for the tax collector? In other words, we do something that's unique to the mayor and the council that would make her job easier in the future, rather than put in fields that normally other staff would not have, but would be unique to us, that might help make her job a little bit quicker and a little bit faster.
Yep, there is no difference between council and staff in terms of the form that's used or how things are paid for. So if a staff person travels to let's say an AMA conference, the hotel is billed the same way yours is, the travel is compensated the same way, the meals are dealt with the same way. There is no difference, but perhaps your idea is valid for both cases, is to alter the form to make the job of the accounts payable person easier to connect, all of the costs back to the claim.
Deputy Mayor's comment, I'm just kind of mentally calculating time, line, and load, and I'm like Councillor Mackay, I'm not in a great urgency. It'd be nice to get it done, but once January hits, I know your staff are in the midst of budget and things along that line. So I'd like to see it in place before the perennial fan starts to fly, as we usually do in January. And I'm looking at time for the tax collector, where that gives us November, December, which basically gives us 9 weeks, I think. If we add January, that gives us 12, which means you could probably get it done. But anyway, personally, I'd love to see it around the end of January to have it in place before you guys are totally swamped with budget, as we usually are. So I don't know if that's doable or not, and if, okay. Perfect.
Trucking, highway bulk salt. Now, I am over here. Okay, so we have tender. CAO?
Do you have a copy of that, Dave?
Yeah, I do.
Do you want to go ahead and do that?
We advertised for the trucking of highway salt for this coming winter season through the procurement website and the town's website, and with the closing date of October 15th, and we received 4 responses from trucking outfits in the province. The pricing is as per the table that was included on my memo. We asked for 2 prices, one for delivery between specified hours and the other with no restriction. The lowest tender was with no restriction was Elmsdale Landscaping Limited at $43 a ton. And it's estimated that over the course of the season that would amount to $64,500. My recommendation is that we award to the lowest tender with in the amount of $43 a ton with no restriction on delivery. This is for your information and consideration.
What does no restriction on delivery mean?
That means they can come at any time and deliver.
Oh, so just call and...
The problem being is that in peak demand salt season, that they wait up at Pugwash in the lineups for hours and hours. And if we restrict when they can deliver when they get down here, then they're either going to not come when we want them to come, or they're not going to want to wait until we are available to accept it. Normally they're pretty good. They arrive at during the daytime, but sometimes they arrive supper time, 6, 7 o'clock, or maybe a little bit earlier in the morning. So, I mean, rather than not accept the delivery, and for those limited times that they do come at those hours, I think we should not restrict them to normal daytime hours.
Yeah, I just was trying to find where I asked that question. Restriction. Go ahead, Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Ernst. I only have 2 questions for you, and I think you've already half answered my first one. Have we used them before? Yes?
Elmsdale Landscaping, no, we haven't.
Oh, we
but
haven't. All right.
They're in the business the same as the rest of them. We've used G.K. Morris Trucking, Twin Mountain.
Yes, that one I recognize.
They're all reputable outfits, so.
Okay, well, that eliminates my part B to that question of were we satisfied? But I'm sure we will be. How much salt, how many tons of salt did we use, did we need last year? Do you know?
Oh, I had a total, but I don't recall what it is now.
Do you suspect we'll need more than 1,500 tons this year? Apparently, the sages say that we're going to get dumped on.
I think 1,500 tons is probably the average over a number of years, but last year I think we probably used more, but there's not a limit as to what the amount that they will bring for that.
All right.
Yeah.
And if we did need more, then the additional cost would not be exorbitant, correct?
Pardon me?
If we needed more salt than what's in this tender, it's not going to put us in the poorhouse.
Well, no, I mean, you can either not salt at all, or you can. I don't think we're going to do that.
All right. Well, as long as they don't have any time restriction on when we do need it in the middle of an emergency, or 3 times during the same evening, depending on how bad a storm is. And if everybody is in agreement, then, Your Worship, I would make the motion to accept the proposal of Elmsdale Landscaping Limited in the amount of $43 per ton plus HST. Do you want me to read the whole sentence? Linda? No? Okay. As recommended by Mr. Ernst.
Thank you. Moved and seconded, CAO.
Thank you, Worship. So up until up until last year, we never tendered for the time restrictions that we always just generally did a tender. And there was a concern that was brought to council that resulted last year. I believe we did have time restrictions on our salt deliveries. And so Dave, the engineer, this year has tendered both ways, so that you understand we have options, and if the price was a lot higher to go with restrictions, then obviously that wouldn't be a choice. Only raising this because the total cost of the restrictions, if you went with the restricted bid, would be $1 or less per ton for the season to have it delivered in the manner that would provide the restrictions. So, in other words, your cost for the year to address what might be the concern is $1,500 or less based on the estimated quantities. And so
I just want to bring that to your attention in case anyone wasn't clear why we were providing the two options, is because there was an issue not with the quality of the service or anything like that in the past, but we had an issue or a complaint around the deliveries and the disruption that caused. So just for your information.
Good? Okay. Any more discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. We have snow clearing removal tenders. Go ahead, Dave.
We tendered for snow clearing and ice control, snow removal for 6 parking lots within the downtown area for this coming winter season. Again, advertised in the normal manner. We received 3 responses from local contractors. Unfortunately, one of the 3 responses did not meet the tender requirements and was disqualified. The pricing that I received is as per the table included in my memo, and it's from K. Anthony Landscaping and Jag Snow Removal. Anthony's as well gave me an unsolicited pricing based on a 3-year term, which I included as well. After reviewing the tender pricing, equipment availability, and references, it's recommended the contract be awarded to the lowest tender at K. Anthony Landscaping and Removal as per their pricing. I also recommended the consideration should be given to awarding the contract based on a 3-year term. This is for your consideration and approval.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, I got 2 questions, Your Worship. Question 1, Water Street, is that being dealt with as a separate item that was discussed yesterday? CAO?
Yeah, so this is just for the parking lots, the public parking lots in the downtown. Water Street and the snow issue there, we purchased the equipment to be able to do that, and the engineer has worked into the snow and ice management procedures a priority in terms of where Water Street would fall, but it is in there, and it's, I believe it's on this agenda. Am I correct, or am I wrong about that? Might not have made it on here, but I know I've seen it. The engineer has it ready, and we can bring it forward at the council meeting. Apologize for that. He had done the work as requested. I didn't get it on there. So, yeah, so that wouldn't be in this contract.
My second question is to Dave or to CAO. The 3 years, I love the idea that's clean. Now, will that mean that this amount would hold for 3 years, or will he have some variance for fuel?
No, he'll hold that pricing for 3 years.
Wow. Well, in that,
I mean, he's taking a chance here, but
he sure is. But if he's agreeing, what the heck? I'd like to make a motion, Your Worship, that we accept the recommendation of the town engineer that the contract for snow removal for the 6 parking lots be awarded to the lowest tender at K. Anthony Snow Landscaping and Snow Removal as per the pricing for a 3-year contract. Wow. Grab it while you can.
Did you have a question?
Thank you, Your Worship. Dave, is this the first time we've done this? To my recollection, I think it probably is. I've never seen you recommend a 3-year contract.
no, we haven't gone this route before, but it's not a bad idea.
No, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I'm glad to see that you're taking a very proactive look at this, and it's great. It's a great idea. Thank you.
Good? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Grants to organizations, January 30th, 2016. Yeah, I gotta look.
I think, Your Worship,
Go ahead.
if I remember right, I think we're going to talk to the refugee support group to tell them about our grants organization process, and there might have been another one.
Yeah. Did you keep track of those? Who we were gonna add to that list, the refugee group? We'll look.
There's another one, yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple. I remember something from him. Yeah, there was two or three anyway. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. I see the date notated here is January 30th. Would it be possible, would council agree to a week earlier on the 23rd?
You're away the 30th? So is she.
Yes.
So,
So could we change that to January the 23rd?
23rd, Paul?
Or 24th, that's Sunday.
Oh, yeah, no, okay, we're not gonna do that. Okay, the 4th of February? That's it, but, no, it's not too late. There's the 6th of February, oh, no, we're not doing the 6th, right? Just a second. We're not doing the 23rd, that's what you said, right? Okay, not the 23rd.
Okay.
Something going on there, but what about the following week?
I'm not there.
Okay,
I'm not there at all.
you've gone for a couple weeks. Okay, send out a date.
That's why I asked if council were able to go a week earlier.
You can double check with that, because that might not be. Okay, you want to send out a doodle poll? Can we do that? Send out the doodle poll? Yes. That's the bet. Okay, we'll put 2 or 3 dates on it. See who can go. Okay, so how long are you gone? No, that's out. No, well, no, the 4th isn't. Yeah, okay. All right. Well, we'll get a couple dates. See if we can do that week before, maybe. He doesn't need to be here. 23rd of January. Yeah, it has to come up here because we're trying to do the grants. We don't want, you don't have to be here, but you don't have to be here, right? You don't have to. Okay, we'll figure it out. Okay. Invitation New Year's levy. So we just want to, and I did talk to both of the wardens about this, about extending the invitation. Oh, whoops. Did I just miss something? No. About extending the invitation to the First Nations and to Argyle to join us for the New Year's levy. And at least both of the wardens thought it was a good idea. Yeah. Okay. So, that's the motion.
Question?
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Letter of congratulations be sent to the newly elected member of, and I put Southwest Nova, but make sure it just says it's West Nova, right? I put that out of habit. So we'll send a letter to Colin. Moved. Seconded. Discussion. Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. We had the letter from Eastlink looking for support for the local community channel. They do a lot of stuff on there. So, did we send that letter? Did we send the letter? We've sent one before, I think. Yeah, it wasn't for this because I said I wouldn't not. Okay. So, can we have that motion?
Send a letter in support of Eastlink.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. I know, right? Oh my goodness, I was at the Pictou Lodge 2 nights ago. I gotta say it. And I know, right? Well, I did the tax collectors conference. Anyway, so I flicking through the channel.
He's on there?
There's a CAO on Eastlink. It was awesome, I gotta say.
Must have spellbound you.
It was. Okay, Christmas campaign. That council brings together parties interested in putting together a Christmas campaign, including these different groups, so as to ensure the events are coordinated and information is shared between the stakeholders. I did talk to Natalie about it, and we just thought it would sure be nice to know who's doing what, where the money's coming from each thing, just to sit everybody down and say, okay, this is where we are for Christmas. And Barb's on the way already, so with the thing there. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. The beginnings of this, of the motion here that you're putting forward, the beginnings of this was already started last year with Natalie and and a number of the other interested parties in town. And it actually went well, and everyone coordinated with one another.
For a bit.
So I will make that motion that council bring together parties interested in putting together a Christmas campaign, including Yarmouth area, town of Yarmouth, YDC, YASTA, room levy groups, and anyone else who is putting a Christmas program together so as to ensure the events are coordinated and information is shared between the stakeholders.
Good. Have a seconder. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
That will also
Questions,
help
comments?
with timetables.
Yeah, we need
And
it all.
also to help one another, support one another's events,
Yep.
which we do anyway. Thank you.
All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Mr. Varon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion the town of Yarmouth send their sincere condolences to Connie and the Varon family on the passing of our former Member of Parliament, Harry Varon.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Strategic Planning, CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. That is Strategic Staffing Plan. So this was a motion that dates back to December last year. Was, I have to say, a little bit challenging for me because there's several aspects to the motion. I did set aside in my response, I guess to some degree, I had drafted a response before and circulated, and it went further than this response in that it tied in our other agencies, our other municipal partners in kind of a strategic overview, strategic plan. Pulled back from that, feeling that was probably overreaching. So the question that is posed in the motion is really to explore, to bring back various options available to us to develop a strategic staffing plan, and then it's and review all departments and so on. And so I've provided three. So first of all, I reviewed the discussion. There was 25 minutes of discussion around this item when it was originally approved. And I reviewed that a couple of times in preparing my response because again, it was a fairly long motion with kind of lots of nuances. And I know from speaking to at least one councillor that his understanding of the intent of the motion was he made it clear to me, and it wasn't exactly as I read in the motion. And so I'm left with the unenviable position, I'll say, of trying to understand what council's intent was, because council approved the motion. And while I understand that at least one councillor didn't understand it the same way I did, I'm trying to put forward options that I think address what is asked for in the motion. So those are, there is an option that the town of Digby and the municipality of Clare within the last few years have undertaken organizational review processes. And as was discussed when the motion was passed, those were conducted through an RFP process. The cost of the effort was approximately $25,000 each of them, plus implementation cost of, I understand, about another $25,000. I did, at the request of Councillor Dawes, from discussing with her yesterday, she asked that I have a look at their terms of reference. And I did pick up an extra bit of information. The reason I raised that is that the province did participate in both of those reviews, not only in terms of the process, but participate financially. And so there is an opportunity there. The second option that I put forward is one that uses a facilitator we've used in the past, and that is Gordon McIntosh. Gordon has helped us with priority setting on a few occasions in the past, and one of the things that he had offered in all 3 times that he was present was to follow up with a capacity review, service capacity review, which we've never taken advantage of. I reached out to Gordon and asked him what that looked like and approximate cost, and so that's included as an option. And the third one came up just a couple of weeks ago, actually, during the excuse me, staff session with Mr. Lloyd and Jeff Ward, thank you. Jeff Ward, who are our consultants on our municipal planning strategy review. Sorry, I'm not great with names. So through that process, when we were kind of blue sky thinking and you know, thinking ahead, Mr. Lloyd, who we're very familiar with, offered that, you know, there are what will come out of the municipal planning strategy review will be a land use bylaw revision, which is codified regulation. But in other stuff that the town undertakes in terms of service delivery and so on, that is a different kind of that's a different way that the town delivers on its goals and objectives. And he offered that they'd be very excited about undertaking a strategic planning process to bring together the various plans that the town already has, and of course they're aware of through this process, into a broader plan with priorities that stretch across the various plans. And of course we're in a pretty good position as a town in terms of some focus, because we have agreed to focus on the Ivany strategic directions and those goals. And so it would be a matter of bringing everything into focus around that. Anyway, those are some options and that's what was requested of staff, and so those are there for your consideration.
Deputy.
Thank you. I've thought a lot about this motion that we made last year, and I realized it was perhaps a difficult thing to understand and to achieve. As a council, as a municipality, we currently and have been well managed for a number of years now. I know that every time there are changes in staff through retirements, etc., that the administration assesses where we've come from and assesses our current needs. And I believe that in the instances that I'm familiar with, that we've made good and positive changes. So I can probably add a few more thoughts, but generally I'd like to let the administration proceed as we have proceeded in my current term. I'm very happy with the results of what we've been doing in support of our current administration. So I would probably vote against any change or the motion or what might arise, unless I'm convinced otherwise by one of my fellow or all of my fellow councillors. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Landrieu.
Thank you, Your Worship. Town of Yarmouth is an $18 million business, is what we have, plus minus. Nothing was intended in the motion to suggest that we weren't well managed. I think we all agree that we are well managed. Nothing was in the motion to suggest change as such. All of us around this table, I hope, stand for the idea of improvement. Are there things that we could be doing better? Is there areas that we have overlooked? We do have a staff, and I can be corrected of plus 60 in the town, you know, off and on. They are managed very well. We've got some excellent supervisors. We've got excellent office staff. We've got, everything is good. That is not to say that we can't improve. In talking to my colleagues in Clare and Digby, they were quite impressed with what came out of their study. It was a supportive document, I understand. I don't think we're looking at the debacle that happened in Kings County. That's not the intention here, because I think we as a council do support all of our staff. I have yet to hear anything derogatory in private from any of my colleagues around the table that would suggest otherwise. But I really think the timing is excellent, because if we do an RFP and follow recommendation number 1, which I'm going to make a motion to, that will give staff a chance to look at this, with the report probably not be out until the new council of the day comes in after October 2016, which will give them a pretty good draft document. Now, if we're lucky and we're able to see that document before, God knows how long it'll take, maybe it can be in a more timely fashion, I don't know. But I really think the new council coming in, which we'll have in October 2016, this would be a very valuable document for them. Given that, I'd like to make a motion that we go with recommendation number 1, that the town of Yarmouth advertise through the RFP process the model that was used by our colleagues in Clare and the town of Digby to do a strategic staff plan or a strategic staff review of the town of Yarmouth. And all I'm suggesting is that put out an RFP, let's see what they say. The intent is here is, can we improve? Do we have areas that we can improve upon? And I think that's all we're seeking. Considering that we're an $18 million operation, it's small change if we can make some improvement. I know we have, and it's been suggested that we have some staff who are working extremely hard hours. Our CAO is a prime example. How the man is married is beyond me. Many people would bite the dust. Frankly, I'd love to see, he's going to cringe on this one, but I'm surprised we don't have an assistant CAO. We kind of have it, you know what I mean? How is our finance staff stacking up? And I mean, it would give us guidance. It doesn't mean that we're going to jump on it. We're not going to, but at least it'll give an independent review from a third party to come in, look at what we have, how we're being run, and come back. And I think the whole key is here, and CAO alluded to this, this is a proactive thing. This is coming back. We want to hear good news. We want to hear, is there ways that this could be improved? Is there ways that we can come in? And that's why that consultant would be so important. $25,000 is not a lot of money when you're looking at staff dollars, and also illness, sickness, because maybe staff are working too hard or whatever. These are all issues that we need to look at. But a good, thorough recommendation review that's proactive, and this is the intent of the motion, was to come out proactively and say, okay, how can we make this even better than what we have today? So that would be my motion. I think we should go to the RFP. And again, the RFPs may not come back. It may be like what we heard from Engineer Ernst, that nobody will reply to traffic lights, who knows. But then at least we'll give it, and then at least the CIO has something to work on, and he can go from there. So that would be my motion, at least go with the RFP process.
Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. Everyone knows that I come from an environment where regular reviews were done. I'm very familiar with it. I'm very comfortable with that. However, I have a lot of interest in the third point that Jeff brought up in this, and I would be interested in looking into that further. And I don't want to put our planner on the floor right now. I have a lot of questions for you on this, but I'm not going to bullet you with them. The third point interests me. I'd like to look into it further, but now my question is, because the motion has been made, I'm not against it. It's been seconded, yes. I'm not against it 100%, but having now looked at the third option here, I am interested in looking into this further. What's going to happen to the motion? I'm not going to vote in favor of it right now because of this third point. So that is my question. What's going to happen? Yeah, and if it's voted down,
Then you just go
When?
for something else. Tonight, right now.
I
if you
can't hear
want
all
it.
three of you at the same time. I'm sorry.
Right now, if you wanted, if it's in the affirmative, we go with it.
Yes.
If it's voted down, then we either leave it or we go with another option or put something else on the table. We can do that right away.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Fine. If it is defeated, then how soon can it be revisited? That's my question. Anytime? All right. Okay, all right, fine, fine. Thank you very much. Then based on all this information that you all have shared with me, I will not be supporting that motion at this time. I'm interested in looking in point 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Landrieu first.
Point 3, which I see here, we have, so these people who are doing the MPS are qualified to do strategic planning reviews? They do strategic planning, so they would be involved with that. And I mean, but what would the timeline be? Because right now they're involved in the MPS, and my understanding that's months to completion. So when would they, if Councillor Dawes has thought, when would this second group be able to start ours? April the 1st?
So the third, I guess, option that I addressed or identified in the memo arose out of a cross-the-table, very quick discussion in the context of an MPS discussion. Mr. Lloyd indicated that that would be really interesting to do when we got to see. I was talking about the alignment between the MPS and the Ivany goals and the other stuff the town is doing, and he indicated just casually across the table, well, that would be, really interesting to do a strategic plan, and he's done that kind of thing before. So that's where it was left. I didn't pursue that other than to put it into this memo. So I can't answer questions on timeline really, except what we know around the MPS is his timeline is March 31st.
So my point is that what would stop this group, whatever they are, doesn't say what they are, I guess Morris and Jeff, whoever, Morris and Jeff, whatever they are, yeah, this group. So what would stop them for responding to the RFP? Why couldn't they simply respond to the RFP like anybody else?
Well, it's a bit of a different step, actually. I mean, certainly they could if they felt qualified to do an organizational review, which is what option 1 is. Option 3 is actually to do a strategic plan, so which might be followed by a review of your organization. Does it fit your strategy? So they aren't necessarily. It isn't do an RFP or hire Jeff and Morris. It's do an organizational review, do a strategic plan, or do a service capacity review. Those are kind of the 3 options that are proposed here.
So we have 2 things on the table. We have the organizational review, which is option 1, which is the motion. And the other option that we were presented with is a strategic plan, which is option 3, which is sitting there. So we actually have got 2 things happening, but neither.
There's really 3 in there, but your motion is to one of them.
Yeah, is to do the organizational review.
Right. The second one was a service capacity review process, which is slightly different, and the third one was strategic plan. And so I offered, I guess, in the memo, the service capacity review, which was a workshop process that a particular consultant has brought to us as an option. Doesn't mean it had to be him, but I probably muddied the waters or whatever by indicating a specific consultant. And the same thing with the strategic plan. So the third option really is the strategic plan, but I used the consultant who had kind of thrown out there that this could easily follow the MPS and bring together under the goals and priorities of the town a comprehensive plan.
So yeah, so as you say, there's a little muddied here because technically I think what I'm hearing here is that you want the organizational review is what we're seeking. The service review is nice, and the strategic plan would be good to have. So you really have 3 specific elements happening, which 3 specific elements have got to be done. So why can't we RFP all 3 specific elements? Because if they got to be done, they got to be done. I think Her Worship made a comment that when this was discussed back in December of 2014, if I remember the dialogue, and my memory's somewhat shaky, was that you got to have a strategic plan before you do the organizational review. So my thought is, well, we don't really have the strategic plan, we don't have the service delivery, and we don't have the final step that we were looking at, which is the organizational review. So why don't we RFP all 3 steps and do a...
We can't do them all at the same time.
No, but that would be part of the process, much like your MPS. It's going to be a time-consuming process, but do all 3 steps, and then therefore you open the RFP, and then the RFP can vote, and then maybe done in such a way that the consultants could come in. Maybe different consultants may do different parts. I don't know, but if we've been bandying around these 3 elements for 3 years now, and we really don't have it yet. So why can't we do it?
I'll start. Just my perspective, but I do strategic plans for a living too, so I would get this part. That when I read the motion, it didn't, I had written backwards beside it, because you don't, and I did say that a few months ago, you don't do a review unless you have a strategic plan, because your plan tells you who you need to implement the plan. So you don't do it backwards. You can't do a review and then come up with a plan and realize that you're 10 people short. That's not how it's done. It doesn't make sense. So if you did do all 3 of them, you'd have to do the strategic plan first. You have to know where you're going to know who you need to hire to get where you're going. To me, it's as simple as that. So when I read the motion, it's all backwards, because it says, and give us guidance towards a long-term strategic plan, which just throws everything into, I understand efficiencies and inefficiencies, and I completely agree with you. We can always do better, and it's great to take a look, but if you don't know what you want, you can't. If you don't know where you're going, you just can't do it that way. So the third piece, and I did just read this morning, sorry, but the third piece, to do the plan, I probably could go with that, because we need to know where we're going. But the idea of the plan, we just didn't have support to do a plan. So I guess I sit here and I think, if you don't have support to do a plan to figure out where you're going, how could you possibly want to spend money on figuring out what kind of personnel you need to get nowhere? I know that doesn't, that's exactly my thought process. And I've done strategic plans before, and I've done them for this specific purpose, to figure out where are the efficiencies and inefficiencies, and then you would go a step further and say, okay, now who do we need in this organization? How do we need to formulate the organization to move forward to implement the plan? And that's where the people would come in. So all steps are there. It's just the order that you do them in. So I wouldn't support the first one, not now, but that's just me. Councillor
Dennis.
I was still in my thoughts.
Have we ever had an organizational study done or a review done before? Pardon me?
We've evolved. Not in my time. We've evolved.
Councillor Dawes?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'm just going to start this. I'll reiterate again that I do come from an environment where regular reviews are done. I'm used to that. That's the way it's done. That's the way it should be. However, what are we reviewing? When we first came on council 3 years ago, my first question was to our CAO, where are we in our strategic plan? Are we in year 3? Are we in year 4? Are we in year 1? And I was told we don't have a strategic plan, because previous council, 1 year, well, actually it was during their last year on council, they decided, no, we're not going to take this on. We are going to leave that for the next council. Next council came, which is us, and I've been asking about it, and it's gone through so many metamorphoses over the last 3 years. It is time that we, it's time that we go forward by working backwards. It is time that we do sit down and put a plan down on paper. Without a plan, we're not going to go anywhere. And after 4 years of no plan, we're just going to be seen as a whole table full of people that come in to open their mail for 4 years. We have not, we have accomplished much so far. But we have accomplished things on more of a day-to-day basis rather than where are we going further down the road. Any proper, I mean, the ideal plan strategy that is in motion right now is our MPS and LUB. We are really, really looking into the future. We're looking down the road. We are doing our job for what we were elected to do. To work, yes, to open our mail every day, to deal with day-to-day problems, but also to look down the road, the medium road and also the long term for the best of our town and our residents. So as much as, yes, I agree with Councillor Langell, I agree it should be done, but this is not the time that I see it as. I would say that we need to sit down and decide on our plan. So if you need a motion for that, I know that's too early.
It's a motion on the floor.
Yeah, motion is already on the floor, so we'll deal with that one first. So thank you very much. I think I've just said all my piece. Thank you.
Councillor McIsaac.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, we had a long, I was a councillor that you had the long conversation with yesterday, Jeff, and I told you what I thought, and I'm not going to go into it in great detail, but what I can tell you is that the way I look at this has got nothing to do with not going backwards or not knowing where we are and where we're going. I made it perfectly clear what I'd like to see us go, and that's if we're going to do the audit, call it whatever you want. It might not be the right wording, and probably that's where it's lacking. But I'd like to see us, with strategic plan, we had a $5,000 luncheon with McIntosh here 3-4 years ago. We had the charts up on the board. We had all that stuff. We done that in my first year. That's probably 7 years ago. We done all that. Just before we changed over to this new council. We've already done that for the previous council, but we haven't done it for this council, no. But I would like to suggest that it would probably carry over. We're still in the same towns, sitting in the same seats, sitting whatever. The vision or whatever that everybody has a kick at the can at, and some are more experts, so-called experts than others sitting around this table, that I'm looking at a internal review and audit of how the town is operated and ran, plain and simple. You can't ask for any more than it, can't make it any more clearer than that. And I can't for the life of me see why councillors or the mayor sitting around this table would want anything not but to have that. We're here to represent the taxpayers of Yarmouth. We know that the staff does a great job and are doing a great job, and that's fine. I've known that for some time. But I like to be 101% sure that that is what's really happening. I talked to Jeff yesterday. He assured me if there's anything you want to know, blah, 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 I will find out for you. But yes, that's fine. You do that all the time, Jeff, and your staff is terrific, and they do that all the time. But I think we owe the people that we represent in an internal audit and review. And if the council can't see the wisdom in that, then you know what? We've got problems, because it ain't going to happen now. If you want to have a strategic plan, put up a chart. I'll give you 5 things I'd like to see happen, and you can save yourself $5,000. So anyway, that's what I'm getting at. We should look at the internal review. That's it in a nutshell. And if the councillors and mayors not prepared to do that, you have a vote. That's fine. But the people also have a vote when it comes to their turn to vote. That's all I got to say.
One more go there, Councillor Langell.
Wow, that's a hard act to follow. Whoa. Yeah, and just to reiterate here, I see nothing wrong with going with option one, doing the RFP. I mean, let it go. I mean, this third thing, I'm not sure. There's three things we're lacking, maybe. But the organizational review, you know, my question is, does Clare, does Digby, did Kings, and the other units develop a strategic plan before they did the organizational review? And I would suggest no, they didn't. They did the organizational review. And I see really nothing wrong with going on an RFP process to see what's out there. Put out an RFP, see what comes out, see what we rattle out of the trees, and see the results. And then maybe we as a council, we're going to have another kick at the can. I mean, this is committee of the whole. We've got a couple of weeks or 3 weeks really to the next council meeting. This could get passed today, but turned down tomorrow. On the other hand, it could get passed and people could look back and say, okay, maybe this is a good idea. I am basically suggesting efficiencies. Is there a way that we can improve? Is there a way, you know, is when Mrs. Jones phones the town of Yarmouth complaining about a water leak on her street, is the response time adequate? Are we doing what we should be doing? Comment was made today, see fit clicks. You know, should we be using that more? Should we be using the dispatch up at the fire, for example, for calls people coming in? Is that a doable thing? These are things that this organizational review would look at and would come back with good recommendations to make our town even more efficient than it is today, and it's excellent. So I would urge council to support the motion and go for it. I mean, and I mean, we're only putting out an RFP. You know, we have lots of time for sober second thought if people so see it. I'm not totally convinced with the mayor's point of view because I see this dragging on and on and on. This is now entering year 4, you know, in the process that we brought this up. We've been banding this for 4 years. We're no farther ahead today than we were 4 years ago on this particular issue. We've done some really good things. Our staff has done some good things. I really think that organizational review would make it even 100% better.
Good. Any more discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Nay. Motion carried. Yeah? Carried? Yeah? Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Okay, we got previously distributed. There wasn't anything under that, was there? I don't think so. Previously distributed. And additions. I got 10 minutes before meeting. Okay. Municipal Awareness Week. So we were, oh, what?
Here, just beg your indulgence on that one. And I apologize. Oh, Mr. Bragg's letter. So where are we going from there on broadband? He basically has answered that with the answer we expected. That basically people in rural Nova Scotia will be paying an additional usage fee of $20 if they want to use as much internet as they would in Halifax. So is this kind of dead now, do you think, Your Worship, or where are we?
No, is that something like this, something that goes to UNSM? Or an entire?
Yeah, I think that's something we should, maybe if we could, Your Worship, at our meeting on Tuesday, just kind of slap this on there as a little note. So just in case we do a little lobbying at UNSM, because I don't know if it's a resolution this year or not to do that.
I don't either. I don't.
So just to throw it in there, so we'll discuss it, okay? That's all. Yeah, because I'm not happy with Mr. Bragg's response, I'm sorry.
Okay, good.
Thank you,
Anything
Your
else?
Worship.
Municipal Awareness Week. So we were going to get together and see if we wanted to do anything for municipal awareness. Anybody interested? Done? Keswick Métis Council support request. So there was a letter, and all they're asking for is a letter. They're not asking for financing or anything like that. I had that in front of me.
I'll make that a motion, give them a letter.
Send
I'll
a
move
letter.
it. Yeah, Sandy said, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
moved? Yeah? Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, so moved. Somebody gonna second that for the letter?
Sandy did.
Seconded. Any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. That's all I had on here.
Yep, did. Do we have it in camera?
And we have in camera.
Yeah.
Good to go.
Good.
Yeah, put your, like, you can, but there's just no interest, so I'll do something and I'll give you a call if you want.
You're